DreamHack Open is brought to you by Corsair, Intel, and Monster Energy.
It's a hot summer here in Europe, and we're about to turn up the heat even higher here at DreamHack Open. It's already been an intense week of competition as 8 European teams have been sliced in half, leaving us with just 4 ready to take to the stage today. On the line, a spot at the DreamHack Open Summer Grand Finals and a shot at 90,000 euros prize money. But it's not going to be an easy ride as 2 more teams will fall victims to the chopping block today as we narrow down the competition ahead of Championship Sunday. My name is Freya, your host for the duration of today, and of course joining me, the wonderful Potter and Blair. So then, I know you had a bit of a day off yesterday. Are you feeling relaxed and revitalized coming into this?
I'm revitalized. I'm not sure about being relaxed because I'm pumped. I'm ready. Like, this is it, right? We're talking about the 4 best teams in the EU stage. I'm ready for some Counter-Strike. This is what I live for. And the Saturday as well.
It's a great way to be starting off our Saturday. And of course, Potter, you've been with me for the duration of the week. And I want to talk about yesterday. Were there any particular highlights for you from that?
Oh man, there were so many highlights, Freya. We just saw a glimpse of it. We had 2 Brazilian teams face to face in those semifinals. You know things got wild. I mean, we had Henny jumping around with no scoping, clutch after clutch. Yesterday, the amount of clutches actually coming out of individuals, it was incredible to watch. I'm expecting more or less the same today as well.
Yeah, it was so dangerous to see Henny on such top form, man. We were talking about Ferrer and we were, mentioning Art, Caserato, Vinny. But Henny, when he's on, Blair, he is on.
He is on, and that's kind of crazy. You look at his lineup, you look at Art, right? I mean, the guy is an artist of aggression. And then on top of that, you have Henny who somehow manages to outshine him. And I feel like Henny, over the years, I've seen him play, and he's reached a level of consistency which is scary if you're their opponent right now. And I think it's a very fantastic time for this particular lineup at the moment. And you know what? I don't know when it's going to happen, but I want to see them play against the EU teams down the line in the future, maybe, hopefully soon.
Hopefully, fingers crossed indeed. But of course, none of those moments would be possible without our wonderful sponsors at Monster Energy, Corsair, and Intel. Thank you so much for joining us and making this beautiful summer of DreamHack Open possible. But with that, I think we need to keep the show moving along. We need to be delving into today. And with that, we've got to talk about our topic of the day. And today, we're talking about players' expectations coming off of this player break. And I think it would only be fair. We have a former player very well on the desk. And I think I've got to ask you, Christine, what is it like coming off a period of where you've not really been playing, coming back into it? What are you focusing on as a player?
You're just kind of getting back into the rhythm of the game. Counter-Strike, it's so fast-paced. Things happen so quick. And the decision-making you have to make, it's got to be split. It's got to be within split seconds, right? So getting back into the rhythm of the game, the groove of the game, the flow, how things work, that's a huge factor. And just really the mouse sensitivity. I swear, whenever I sit back down on this desk and I swipe my mouse, the sensitivity feels different every time. Just 1 week passes and all of a sudden that 2.1 feels like a 2.8. So definitely it takes some time to get back into the groove of things.
Man, you got to keep changing your stance, Christine. That's what all good players do, right? Changing it after every single game. But speaking of which, we had the chance to check in with some players and see what their expectations are for the season ahead.
Coming into this second season here, I think we have some goals we want to achieve as a team. When we first created this roster, we set some goals for us, and we actually managed to accomplish them. So we are really happy about that. I think we have a pretty good team right now, and I'm really happy with the current state of the team. So I'm looking forward to the second season.
Culminating with the championship in Blast last season was sensational, and even with the fact that it was online, it was a huge step for this team. And I think the main thing that we need is consistency.
I would honestly say you always have high hopes and maybe some dream that you can make it into the top 10 or top 5 pretty quickly, but I think all of us expected it to be kind of a bumpy road, and we have actually shown that we can beat some of the best teams in the world.
I was envisioning these different LAN events and the team being able to grow together. I wasn't envisioning them all playing, from separate locations for the most part and playing in online tournaments. We're actually better on LAN. People forget this. We're actually built to be a LAN team. So we had to do a little adjusting with online play, and I'm very proud of the team, how they responded. Of course, now we're coming off a 1-month break, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond the second half of the year and how the circumstances might affect them. And we're really confident in this team, and we believe in this team, but we're also patient.
Overall, these first few months after we had the break is going to be really busy for us. Actually, going to be a lot of qualifiers coming up, and obviously right after DreamHack Summer is going to be ESL1 Cologne. So it's about setting the stage and setting the tone for the next few tournaments to come. So I feel like it could be actually really important for us to grab a first tournament victory for us here that we can bring on and then use that to snowball and use the momentum as a team. I feel like we could really need that going into this season. So yeah, we're in it to win it.
But once the team learns consistency, once they have more matches together and improve individually and improve in their comms and those sorts of things, I think we could eventually be number 1 in the world.
Big words there from the man himself, Jason Lake. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you think about 2020, we think about the beginning of the year. Nobody knew we'd be coming into this online period. Of course, nobody's fault. And I'm so grateful that we actually get to do these tournaments because we can do them online. But it's interesting, isn't it, Blair? Coming off of this player break, it's kind of completely different to any other player break we've seen before.
Yeah, and I think the really cool thing about esports in general is how we've adapted we've been able to adapt and continue to kind of flourish in its own way. And for these teams as well, it has to be different, right? You're back from your vacation and you're still kind of sitting at home for most of these guys. We have heard a few of the players say that they're going to be going for boot camps and whatnot, but I'm assuming with the limited travel, the travel restrictions rather in place in a lot of the places, it's still not going to be actual boot camp, just going to be sitting in their homes and playing. It has to be weird, but the good thing is most of these guys are pretty young and they can adapt.
Yeah, exactly, indeed. Well, moving on, I think it's time for our tip of the day. And this one comes from the awesome mind of Big's coach, Toby. So you're going to want to take some notes.
Yeah, my tip to stay consistent is maybe a bit old-fashioned, but get a pen and a paper and just write it down, yeah? Just write down your thoughts, how you approach the game, how you approach everything, your routine, because you might not remind or remember as much stuff as you think. And then you always have a reminder, and I gave that advice to many people, but I think it's really the people who followed it, they know what I'm talking about.
The good old-fashioned way there for Toby, putting pen to paper. But you know what, Christine? I can't really fault it because I feel like that definitely works.
It does. It makes a difference for me as well, I mean, I could have an iPad, I could be writing on my PC, but I choose to write on this journal. I think pen to paper absolutely makes a difference. It kind of inscribes it into your brain a bit. And I like these small tips that we're getting. It seems so minute, not that important, but look, we have even a Liege on Liquid on as a player, bringing some apparatus to measure his monitor placement in order to kind of enable his consistency. These are the lengths that these players are getting to be able to be that dedicated player, go through the motions of whatever they can do to make sure that they're as consistent and performing at the level that they want to each and every time. So, hey, pen to paper, apparatus to measure a monitor, do everything you can as a player to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. It's all those small things coming together which create, a big success story. And speaking of big, we're going to be seeing them playing up later in our second semi-final matchup. But talking of that, let's take a look at our bracket to see exactly what games that are going to be gracing our screens today. First of all, it's going to be Complexity versus Heroic, a huge one to start off the proceedings. And then later, it's going to be Big versus OG Blair. What are you making of these games?
Interesting thing, you look at these 4 teams. Complexity, they're off a pretty decent run so far this summer, right? This spring, they won an event earlier on. They won Blast. They've been looking pretty solid. Big, number 1 team. They've won a number of events. Heroic and OG, they seem to be kind of like the bridesmaid, never the bride. They come third, second placings in some of these qualifiers and whatnot, but they haven't had a win yet. So a win here, just getting off the player break, it would be big for them, no pun intended. However, these 2 teams, Complexity and Big, I gotta say, you would be kind of mad not to envision them being in the finals because they're looking goddamn good right now.
They are indeed. And I think with that, we can begin kicking off today's action. It's going to be an absolutely huge one. But now it is crunch time and there is nowhere left to hide for either of these teams as the spot at the grand finals is at stake. It's all on the line as Complexity take on Heroic, and it's coming up after this.